So as I sit here on a beautiful summer day in sunny Southern California and I look at the bees flying into the flowers, gathering pollen, and the little lizards and rabbits and butterflies all around me, I think, how could someone not believe in God? Well, today's video about different MBI types and belief, I'll try to explore that question a little deeper. Now, my disclaimer is that for every rule, there's an exception. I understand that. For every type that doesn't believe, you'll find one who does, and vice versa. But going by my own experiences, and that includes what I've read and witnessed online, but mostly in person, and I'm sharing what I have found to be the case most of the time. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to sort of go in the order of NTs, followed by the NFs, followed by the SJs, followed by the SPs. So I'm using the Kirsian quadratypes as opposed to the alpha, beta, gamma, delta quadra that they use in socionics. All right, so without further delay, this is my thoughts on MBI types and atheism. That is not the suspension of belief, but the affirming belief that there is no God. Okay? And we're starting with the NTs. So let's start with the number one most likely to be atheist type there is out there. And for my experiences, I have found this to be INTPs. You know, it's not that they're bad, it's not that they're even anti-religious. They just don't have the religious particles in their body, it seems. I've seen them be very, nicely like, oh, that's great about someone else's beliefs, but they don't really tend to have them. And again, it's usually not for the reasons of being hurt or angry about evil in the world or anything like that. They just simply tend to look at things from a detached view. Now, I don't know if there's any correlation here, but I find those types to be the least loving on a personal level too. It's not that they don't care, they just don't, they just seem indifferent to a lot of things that make people very happy, very sad, very angry, very emotional in any sense of the word. Your INTPs, more so than INTJs or ISTJs, I think your INTPs are really the robots of the MBTI community. And I don't say that in any disparaging way. It's just from my experiences, they're the least likely to believe. They'll listen to you talk about it, and you can maybe convince one to move from anti-belief to non-belief to maybe suspension of belief, but I find it rare that you have a strong believer who is an INTP, unless of course you look at personality database and you'll find some religious figures like Thomas Aquinas on there, but in the current world, that's what I found. I'd say follow close behind them are ENTPs. Now, ENTPs are the MBTI's devil's advocates, and they generally, however strong a belief is being pushed, they'll want to rebel against it. Think of violence, but with words as opposed to actions in a physical sense. Although the debates with them can be so strong at times it feels like a physical contest. ENTPs, I have rarely found one to be strongly affirming of anything. They're usually the Socratic type of person when it comes to religious belief or for that matter, ethical things, anything that people believe in short of mathematics is up for debate. And again, if you get them in a room full of atheists, they might as well argue against atheism, not even to a positive sense, but just tearing the atheist arguments down as such. But more often than not, they're usually the odd one out in a community of believers, and thus they take the anti-belief role. And what I found mostly their most go-to tactic there is, the onus of proof is on the believer to convince them and not the other way around. And I've gone around circles with plenty of ENTPs, and depending on your intellectual proclivity for such things, it'll either be fun and inspiring or really frustrating. But yeah, ENTPs I would rank second behind INTPs in terms of lack of formal belief in God. Next, I would say INTJs, and I would probably rank these guys third in that. INTJs, you'll find a lot of self-avowed atheists, but what I have found with INTJs more often than not is it's not really the concept of God that they are arguing against. Rather, it is the concept of God constructed by society at large, or a particular religious interpretation of it. This is a case where I think the word God has some political and doctrinal baggage that the INTJ would rather dispense with. I don't know Stephen Hawking's type. He's one of the NT types for sure, or was rather. But if you read his work and replace the word gravity with God, you have a very strong theistic argument. It's just he doesn't like the word God because of the political and doctrinal suggestions that such a word has. But the beliefs are more often than not actually there. They're not indifferent or lack the concept of it, much like maybe an INTP would. They just get riled up with the word God, and thinking that if you believe in God, that equals some ethical proclamation that doesn't logically need to be made, but they see it that way. If you believe in God, then you must believe every word in the Bible's true, or you must believe that this church is the only one going to heaven, or you believe this or you believe that. It's like, no, we're talking about, does the universe have an author or creator behind it, an intelligent design behind it, or not? And when you can really get them in that sphere, then I would say they're no more or less atheistic than any other type. But unless you get them on that kind of playing field, then face value, they'll be in the top 3 atheists of the MBTI. Okay, last but not least in this quadra is ENTJs. Now, I've found several ENTJs to be believers in God, but they're almost unconcerned about it. A lot of times for all the things that they have delved deeply into, the problem of God isn't one of them. So ENTJs, for the most part, are they're pragmatic. They care about what's going on today, day to day. They're not going to care about the deeper meaning of the universe usually, and what does this mean existentially for me and my life trajectory. They're not going to spend time on that. And so even if they do believe or don't believe, you're not going to be able to tell them apart from each other, because the cash value of whatever faith they have is little in the world of religious belief. They're concerned about other matters most of the time. I think we're going to stop it there with the NTs to make this video short and sweet, and then I'll come back with the NFs tomorrow. That's it. Peace out.